So, before you just click the POB and close the video, let me at least give you the important disclaimer. We are talking full on meme build here. I do not recommend anybody starting this. It's not even actually a starter. You're gonna play something different for a long time. You will most likely die. It will deal no damage. And it might not even work in terms of mana. It's gonna be so much trouble. Be warned, if you still care, then let me give you a little bit of a rundown in a second. Before that, I also really want to make clear that his character in the background is just for visual, right? That's the whole idea. We want cats everywhere, and I want to play Saboteur, and I want to have cats everywhere, so that's kind of the idea. As said, full meme material. I tried making this build. Once I failed really badly at that, honestly, because I can't use POB apparently. However, lixxart from Discord saved me. Basically, he worked out a version with a different skill. It's Soulrend of Reaping instead of the spiral one, which more details later. Both have their place, probably, maybe. Anyway, he made a really nice version of that, and we worked together on the bigger POB, and I link you both. You can look at his original version. It's more softcore oriented, has just different opinions. I added a lot of fluff, made it objectively worse, so it fits basically what I think is comfy, and I like progression to be really smooth, and I don't like respecking too much, yada yada yada. So you find his original version down there. You also find his Discord handle. You can also just join the Discord to have a bit more of a public discussion. He's super helpful and really likes talking about stuff like that and other builds. So feel free to reach out to him. Also, the leveling part is mostly stolen from Grafa. Just adjusted, made worse, obviously, adjusted so yeah, the tree fits the swap later way better. However, you are entirely free to level this however you want. You're gonna be playing a non-cat build for a really long time. We're talking into the 90s, so it's totally feasible to do like a full respec. It's okay, that's fine. Do that however you want. For example, what comes to mind is playing the actual Grafa build for a while, or maybe the Jumbo guy has like a Exang miner dude, for example. You could probably play on the Trickster and do full respec. You can go Econk. Jungron has probably something for that, but be careful with Jungron stuff. It's gonna be so clunky probably. But Econ until like 2 stone, you can do different things. Anyway, what I'm gonna do as a quick rundown is we're gonna play Rolling Magma self-cast, like with Flame Ball normally, like until level 31. Then we're gonna play Rolling Magma Mines with the returning projectile node from Saboteur. We're gonna finish leveling with that, and then I'm gonna go into maps with that. Pretty much the Grafa one, just a different tree, some changes, so it's significantly worse actually, but fits the respec later better. And I'm gonna play this until probably early 90s. I do not recommend doing the early swap. It's more like mid 90s, early 90s, and gonna collect the basic gear. Then I'm gonna swap to the cats build. Probably cut my damage in half or more just to do that, and then actually play the cats build, go back to farming, just some basic red mapping, and try to improve the build. The main goal here is to get gem levels. This gets expensive and weird quickly, and all the mana stuff has to be solved on the way, which is probably not gonna work exactly like in the POB right now, so you're running the risk on there. That's the idea, and then I have a cats build. That's the plan. Cool. This right here is lixxart's POB. That's where mine is based on. That's what we worked on together, but it's largely done by lixxart. He is also using the loadout system, so please make sure you're actually changing everything up here, right? And do not use these little ones here, especially because this also changes the config, right? So if you only change the typical things, you're gonna forget about the config. However you want to do that, but please use this up here. He has 3 different versions for you. He has a Leaguestart version with lower DPS. That's like in a range. I personally wouldn't recommend swapping to it already unless you can do it really early, but it's totally up to you. The upgraded version is far more comfy, should be far more comfy. I recommend playing something else until roughly here. And then there's obviously like a crazy endgame expensive version. You can look over this, have your own opinion if you can do that or not. This is incredibly expensive. Keep in mind the node is not here. This version is still in a 3.25 version of Path of Building. I'm on the beta right now. So you have to also click that extra node, right? The tiny node for returning projectiles. He has quite a bit of a node section. You can check out and should definitely check out. And as always, keep in mind there is a configuration, and especially Buddha stacks are set to 15. Very, very important. You can lower that if you have lower bidder, and especially important to note here, if you remove the bidder is incredibly important. Just simulating that if you go to 15, it's so much more damage, and it's the same on, for example, I don't know, it's the super low version here, right? If you remove the bidder stacks, you end up with quite a lot less damage. Removing this is, or lowering this is especially important before you have your balance of terror. As soon as you have balance of terror, setting this completely to 15 and actually expecting 15 is far more likely. But other than that, there's like a bunch of others I'm going to show you in more detail in my POB. But this is the original. Feel free to check that out. Use that if you feel like it suits you better. It's overall fine, I believe. This is the actual guide POB. This will be overall pretty rambly and long, and I'm somewhat unprepared because I'm running out of time. However, I will guide you through the entire POB, give you all my thoughts about it. If you're not actually going to play this build, then this entire part is pretty much worthless for you. If you're going to be playing this build, and you probably have nothing to do right now anyway, and I invite you to have me rambling about the entire thing. As with the original POB, same thing, please use this. There's a loadout function. You have all these different loadouts here. Same thing, do not change this stuff. Always use this one. I mean, you can, but then you can reset it by choosing one of those. Same reason again, there are different config settings as well, and it just gets messed up. It's a really, really cool feature. It is set up this way. Make sure you use it so you don't confuse yourself. In general, we do have the entire magma phase here. So we have like the pre-mine stuff, we have the mine swap, we have like playing mines till maps roughly, you know, like in your 60s. For most people I see playing my builds or my guides, they actually end up almost 70 when they go into maps. There's a crit variant in the maps, as said, right? You're still going to play Rolling Magma. There is some tree stuff and a little bit of progression if you're gonna play Magma really long, maybe up until 95. And then there's like the super early swap that I do not really recommend. I just can't recommend that unless you're okay with playing, like losing so much damage and actually playing rather low tier maps for a while, which is fine, right? It's a video game. If you enjoy that, that's okay. I rather recommend swapping gear wise and also level wise, more like in your 90s. We have an aspirational thing. That is what the vast majority is never gonna reach anyway, and it's already in some cases somewhat expensive, but kind of a nice one. And then we have this unrealistic POB here. It's called unrealistic because it is unrealistic. There's like insane non-existing gear in there. This is to give you ideas, and you can play around with this, right? You can see, okay, what does it look like if you have +9 gem levels? Like, how much are they worth actually? What are other items or other mods that might be beneficial on your gear? This is just more of an idea pool than anything else, and super unrealistic to ever achieve. Also really, really important here. Also put it into the comments. This is done in the beta version of the new POB. This already has a 3.26 the game version in here, the tree version. That means if you import this into your actual POB and it says it has an unrecognized tree, it means your POB is not updated. By the time this video is out, likely POB is actually updated for everybody and you can import it. If that is not the case and you still want to view it in the actual POB and not only on the pop-in website, you can go to options and tick this box here, opt in to weekly beta builds, right? Then your POB will check for updates and will actually get you the beta versions. Can kind of recommend to turn this off later again, then it will downgrade, or as soon as the actual update is out, to remove this so you don't get like these random versions. That can also just brick stuff, right? It's still beta, be careful. And tiny side note, here's also this thing. Right, this gives you these separators, so numbers are more easily. I believe this is not default, so this is where that is. Yeah, I found that out some years ago, but really nice. Anyway, this is how you get the beta builds, and you need a beta build for this or the actual updated version of POB, which might already be out at this given time. Let's get into the actual thing. So, what's going to happen? Leveling. I said earlier you can level in different ways, but this is the one I have chosen. This is my actual plan for leveling. There's something rather special in there that for more speedrunny people, this is totally clear what's happening here. If not, then please let me explain. So you're gonna start with Rolling Magma. You have your skills here. You do have Rolling Magma. You will want to mule a Templar, so you get Elemental Proliferation. And Combustion is after Brutus, I believe, somewhere, or I don't know, somewhere in this area, like level 9 or whatever that is, possibly. So this is your free link. So you do want a free link, right? A free blue. You most notably, compared to Templar, you do not have a Holy Flame Totem. You just don't have access to that. You can obviously get it from somebody, but who cares? You don't really need that. In combination with that, you will have Flame Wall. So through shooting, like self-casting your Rolling Magmas through Flame Wall makes them way better. It's really cool, especially with Combustion. Typically, before you have Combustion, for every pack, you want to put Flame Wall, shoot the ball through it to ignite, have the Proliv, kill the white monster pack, really cool. As soon as you have Flame Wall, as soon as you have Combustion, you can stop using Flame Wall on like white packs and just shoot it with the, like one tap it with the Rolling Magma with Combustion, and they're gonna ignite, or at least likely enough ignite. So that's already a little bit better, so you don't need to do this every time. Snapper Smug is pretty cool because you got projectiles, right? So you can do that. You can get steel skin. This is usually turned off here because it increases this max hit a lot. So, right, this would be while it's active, and it's only, it's like an emergency button, and yeah, this it's irrelevant in this early POB, but in the later ones it is in there. You just have to, it's not in the name then, right? So you have to click the things and search for where skill skin is. Yeah, you don't want to turn this on in POB all the time. So that's that. Then you have your typical flame dash. It's really nice with Arcane Surge. Before you have Combustion here, you can put Arcane Surge there, or you can put it next to a Flame Wall if you want to. It's just really nice for mana. It's like super helpful. Flame dash for movement speed. Before that, you take the icy dash thing. How's it called? Frostblink. It's called Frostblink, right? Frostblink first, then get Flame Dash. In Act 2, you get Summon Skitterboards, Flesh and Stone. I have no idea where you get that. Somewhere, Act 1, 2, something like that. 3 maybe. I don't know. Get it at some point. It's really nice, especially later. Flesh and Stone in combination with your Ascendancy here, the Born in the Shadows, which is not the first one we're going to take, sadly, but it's just so comfy. And you put this into Sandstance. Keep in mind, in Sandstance, this is a defensive aura. So nice. Really liked it. So yeah, that's your starting thing. So there's another one, which is called Whirling Blades. So you can only take this if you do something special with your weapons. And that is, you're going to use a dagger and a one-hand thrusting sword. And on your second weapon slot, you're going to use 2 goat's horns. Why is that? For one, you can use Whirling Blades. You might say, okay, I can use Shield Charge anyway by using 1 bond and 1 shield, and you can absolutely do that, right? Feel free to just use Shield Charge and skip this entire thing. However, if you do, you have this cluster here, right? This has like attack speed while dual wielding, so this makes stuff way faster for the blade thing. Same here, some attack speed, there's more attack speed, and there's even more attack speed. So that's really cool. Also some block stuff, but nobody cares. It even gives you cast speed. It's like, these nodes are so cool. And the big one is this. That's 60% increased damage while wielding 2 different weapon types. So you get 60% increased damage. Very early on, if you do not have much increased damage, this is almost the same as 60% more damage. And that is active just depending on, like, it works for your spells if you have 2 different weapon types equipped. So 2 wands doesn't work, and the shield and the wand doesn't work either, because it gets both got to be weapons and shields are offense. So if you do not care about this whole thing and having weird melee weapons and weapon swapping, then you just do not take this entire thing here, right? You just don't take this and this entire cluster and you go up here. Also, if you take it in terms of order, what you can do, if you don't take these 2 immediately, you just take this stuff here, or maybe you need to do it actually a little bit earlier. You can have this pretty much at the spider. Like, that would be a breakpoint, right? If you don't care about speedrunning too much, then just take these. It's like super comfy, and then take this. But overall, you would take Blood Siphon, Elemental Focus, this thing, or these you can also swap around, depending on if you hit it for Brutus or not. And then you take this. So if you do, what is like specifically you do? You are going to take goat's horns, right? 2 goat's horns is your goal. Why? Because it has this adds 2 to 4 fire damage to spells, which is really nice. Like, the implicit, the craft is rather optional. You not gonna use this very long. You're probably not gonna have this. This is just for if you opt to just have 2 wands or something like that. But in general, you have these in 1 weapon set, and you need to make sure that none, absolutely none of your actual damage things are socketed into these wands, because most of the time, especially after level 10, whenever you get your these weapons here, you're gonna attack quite a bit with these weapons, white monsters. So just make sure nothing is in here. For these 2 here, your other weapon set, you want your whirling blades in there, because you can only use it anyway whenever you have these weapons equipped. So it's totally fine to have like your whirling blades. Momentum is kind of optional. At least 2 green, ideally 3 greens. Have that in your weapons here. What weapons are we using? We're using a dagger and a one-handed, it's a one-handed thrusting sword, I believe, or something like this. But you can actually use whirling blades with this. And both need to be able to use whirling blades. So you go ahead. Glass Shanks is the very, very first base. It's a 1.5 attacks per second, and ideally you get a Whalebone Rapier, which with 1.6 attack speed, which is really, really fast. So what you do, you whirling blade around. As soon as you have combustion, which you should have, as soon as you're level 10, you already have that. Basically, as a free link, you can pretty much kill white monsters with this, right? Just cast with swords in your hand and whirling blade around. That's okay. As soon as you encounter anything that's a little bit tougher, maybe a blue pack, definitely a yellows, which you shouldn't be killing anyway. But if you're killing one, or if you are at bosses, you just weapon swap to your horns, right? You can no longer whirling blade during this time, but it doesn't matter. You're not traveling, you're attacking, and then you're gonna use your double wand, still without that craft. That firecraft comes significantly later. So as soon as you are in Act 3 and you get your amulet from Dilara, behind her there's like a door, and then behind the door is a crafting recipe, and that is the one fire damage 2 spells. It needs to be 2 spells, and you can craft that. So if you're using this weapon stuff, you craft this on both of your weapons. From this point on, or latest from this point on, latest with the crafts, you can probably already do this as soon as you have the dual wielding mastery. You have to fill out what deals more damage. You are not going to swap back. You're actually constantly using this all the time. You don't need your wands anymore. Completely gone. You just use this, definitely with the craft and the mastery, and maybe already with the mastery you just use this stuff here, and you are just going to cast while having this, and you can whirling blade around. That's kind of the idea. A little bit later, at some point you will drop this cluster, right? Because at some point you want shield charge and you kind of want a shield and you find way better wands, and then it becomes worth it to use shield charge instead. Drop your whirling blades, drop this entire cluster here. The earlier you do it, the cheaper it is, because you can do it for gold, and please do it for gold. Use gold for that, because you have respecs later, and your potential Orbit regrets or the natural respecs you get from campaign, they are more valuable later on because it would cost you significantly more gold. So I figured this respec here is a gold one. You can also, by the way, take this extra point if you really wanted to, which is kind of nice, to be fair, but yeah, you cut out this. This is the entire thing. I said, if you don't want to deal with that, just put shield charge here, and at some point equip, a shield and shield charge, or just have flame dash for a while, which is also totally fine. And then in that case, if you have flame dash, you can just use two wands all the time. If you have it with shield charge, have one wand, right? In these cases, also put the craft as soon as you get it, either on 2 wands or just on one of the wands you have. You also get Fawn's Horn at some point, so you want to upgrade that. Ideally, maybe craft on that one. And then just ignore this entire thing, right? Just ignore the entire dual wielding situation, and you should be good. That's that part. Super important. Other than that, we have some AoE here. Rolling Magma is all about the little explosion and ring it leaves on the ground. You can even double hit with that, but it's a bit too much for this video. You have some damage here, basically, ignites and chills. You have this now 15% counting as inverted. You have some life here, and that's roughly a 31 tree. That means this should carry you all the way into Act 3. At the end of that, you will do your lab with this, and then you can do the mind swap. That's basically what you do. In the first lab, you take Shrapnel Specialist. You need this to swap to mines, basically. Just do that. I don't think I would swap to mines before. You also need a link, definitely for mines, and you need the respective support gems we can talk about in a second that you can get. Other than that, as I said, there isn't really anything here. All the gems should be here. In terms of items, we already talked about the weapons a lot. There is also the you want to take a Jade Amulet from Dilara, or maybe one a little bit earlier so you can level up stuff, but Jade, do not equip any other amulet. You're gonna mess up your stats, you're gonna all over level random gems, and then you cannot swap to a Jade Amulet. It's a bit of a nightmare. Just take a Jade Amulet, do not equip any other. Same with belt. You do want a heavy belt. You can buy one from the vendor. Whatever you do, equip a heavy belt. Do not equip any other belt. You might have attributes on and you mess up your gem leveling. My experience, just don't equip a belt until you get this one. That's like super easy. Also, other than that, if you get random attributes somewhere else, be very careful with over leveling your gems. I like this. I call this attribute locking, to say, okay, I will have attributes in very specific places and nowhere else during my entire level run as much as possible, so I do not end up in a situation where I randomly cannot swap my boots because there's some dex in it or some strength and then I over-leveled a gem. If you hit a cap for certain gems, it's typically okay. You will get more attributes from the tree and other sources. But that, yeah, besides the point. That's the starting thing. And then you are ready to swap to mines, roughly 31. So you can go up here. You can go to mine swap. So this already has quite a bit of extra tree, but if I swap these back and forth for you, right, you can open this and just use your mouse wheel to go back and forth so you see easily what changes, right, between the different versions of the tree. We do take some dexterity here for ease of use, as said. Locking, we only have a Jade Amulet and we have this. If you have dexterity somewhere else, you could skip this, but you might mess up your attributes. We do get a bunch of area of effect. As said, more overlaps with your Rolling Magma if you actually have more AoE, right? The projectile doesn't need to hit, but these little explosions on the ground do, so AoE is really, really nice. More chance for overlap. You get a bunch of penetration here. You get whatever the fuck this is. Detonation speed, nice. Some mine stuff here. You get that the mines applies 2% increased damage taken to enemies near it, right? Mines have auras, which is kind of weird, right? While they're on the ground, they have like a little bit of an aura, so you can build them up. So as soon as you have 5 mines next to an enemy, it will take 10% increased damage. Very similar here. You have reservation and efficiency increase for your mines. Also interesting, each mine on the ground reserves mana, right? So you cannot throw an infinite amount, depending on how much mana you have. So you need some of that. That makes it a little bit better. And you do have this mine mastery, same thing, just the other way around, right? If you have up to 5 mines on the ground, you get this 10%. And that means these enemies deal 10% less damage. It's like an aura, like an offensive aura, basically, or like a defensive aura for the enemies. It affects enemies in a way like this, so they deal less damage. Really, really nice, really comfy as well. Some decks, this AoE is probably already there, and this already has respect this. You do not need to do this immediately, right? Either you went this way anyway, you never dealt with this, but just because you're 31 in mind swapping, you do not need to immediately respect that. Do that whenever you have like a good shield, a good wand, you want to use shield charge. You can just stick with these 2 weapons you have. That's like fine. So yeah, you can respect that a little bit later, but at some point you should. Until 54, you should respect that. If you do that, then you can put some stuff. Reservation efficiency, obviously, you do get this fire mastery, which is really nice. Might be worth rushing, actually, right? As soon as you do the mine swap, you might want to do this. Maybe you want to do this first. You can kind of decide. But this mastery is kind of nice, since you're non-crit. And you can do that. There is some chance to ignite here. Some extra one you probably want to take, some life here, but that's pretty much the tree. Since there's ascendancy in here, this is the second one I would recommend to take. Basically, you can also take Born in the Shadows and take this as third. You can do different combinations. Let's talk about that a little bit later, depending on what you end up with, because you can only have 3, right? So you can either get 1, 2, like this one is set, and then you take 2 and 3, or you take 2 and 3. That's kind of up to you, but not taking Born in the Shadows is somewhat crazy. I feel like your first 3 should be dead. There's also arguments, obviously, in general, always to have calculated risk instead of Born in the Shadows, or instead of Pyromaniac, which you kind of want Born in the Shadows, so you could delay this significantly and go calculated risk, Born in the Shadows instead of this one, for example. That's like a combination. But yeah, delaying this one too much seems really weird. Not having this as your 4th lap seems pretty odd. That's kind of the part what makes Saboteur, I feel like. You have this double immunity, you only need to solve for freeze, basically, on the elementals. You have this constant regen that's going off by throwing mines and traps, and yeah, I don't know. But yeah, in a lot of cases, this is actually more damage if you go crit, right? If you have some crit, having that lucky, especially if you have low crit. If you almost crit cap, then this is dumb, but yeah. Really nice one. You have to decide for yourself if you want to go this with damages low and then either leave this or this as defense out. I do not recommend leaving out this at all. So it's like 1, 2, 3, and then that would be 4, basically. So 1, 2, 3 like this. You just leave out this. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway. That about Ascendancy. So, for skills, swapping, what you need a 4-link. You need Rolling Magma, High Impact Mine, and Charged Mines. This makes everything, that's the High Impact one. This gives you like 50% less less damage on those things. You have Charged Mine, gives you Frenzy and Power charges, which is really cool, but this turns Rolling Magma into a mine in the first place. You have Minefield. That gives you 51% less mine throwing speed at this point. So your character is going to kind of stop a little bit, right, and throw all the mines, and then yeah, it's like a kind of a stop and go situation. Can feel awkward, especially without mine throwing speed. So you have an option to take volley instead of minefield, or maybe that's enough, right? So you don't need like 4 additional mines. You can just do 1 and volley. You have to feel that out. Also, maybe you have just a free blue, 1 green. You can use volley. You can do stuff like this. But roughly, these 3 are set, and one of these 2 seems useful. take both, bring both, level both. You can swap back and forth depending on gear as well. This is set to 4 overall with Rolling Magma. Set this to whatever you want, what you feel like, how many hits there are. 4 is probably safe, 6 seems a lot, but might be okay later on. Who knows? Other than that, here, still the same. You do have shield charge at some point, right? Keep the other one, right? If you went that way until you actually want to go shield charge. Flame dash, sure. Same auras, and you need also new thing. You need automate mines with automation. Keep in mind that later on you want automation to be 20 quality. You can check out the notes for that, but there's some CDR breakpoints with a jewel, like 20%, 2020 here, like 2020, and some 2% CDR jewel or something. And apparently that hits a breakpoint. I don't know. But if you're in lab and you're not looking for alternative gems, which you might be, then you could quality this. This is like your most important quality, I would say, pretty much. Anyway, then yeah, you are a miner. You throw mines with automated detonations, and then there are going to be, you're going to have this as well, really important. And then there is rolling magma everywhere, and it's going to hit everything, and then yeah, you're pretty much that one. Yeah, fine. There's not much to say about this. Still same items basically. Probably you want a Fawn's Horn until then. Actually, there's a little bit what and craft on that one. Use any kind of shield. Movement speed is obviously great, even if you're shield charging. Keep that in mind. Shield charge scales off movement speed. It's not attack speed. Be somewhat careful with that. So movement speed is still important on shield charge, or useful on shield charge. Still a J, it's still a heavy belt. Anything else, I don't know, get life, resist. You don't need anything else until now. After that, you're gonna finish kind of your campaign, basically, right? Like the very end of the campaign. In this case, I'm gonna take Born in the Shadows. This is the point where you have to decide, right? Or maybe a little bit before, maybe you can take Born in the Shadows and take this one, or maybe you take this and not take Born. You can do different stuff. Whatever you feel like. But other than that, as you can see, if I swap back and forth, in this case, you're gonna need some strength somewhere. So I put this here. We take more reservation efficiency. We're gonna take a frenzy charge, a jewel socket. This is just in general. You don't need this right away. But at any time, you can get any corrupted blood, corrupted and blessed on a jewel. Do that. Also, reduced effect of chill is also pretty nice, honestly. It's like this, jewels like this are one of my favorites, and putting that into like the trade search early, it's not that unlikely that you get something like this with these two cool nodes. That is just wonderful in my opinion. But yeah, fair enough. Frenzy charge is great. You generate them anyway, so you're always at max. Same with power and fury, but we are not really crit yet. And then some life. Take this if you do not have a life modifier on your chest. If not, do not take this. And never take the plus 30 damage, 30 life. That one is just crazy. Just don't take this. Yeah. Other than that, I kind of forgot early on, we do help Alira. You cannot do that. It's so much better with resistance. Yeah, I don't know. You do you. Other than here, nothing really changes. We have this is the same. We can use Arcanist Brand at some point, which is kind of cool. So we can automate Flame World, Sniper's Mark, and Wave of Conviction, which is pretty cool. For Arcanist Brand, you can do that at some point. This is pretty much the same, but you might want to live tap it so you don't run low on mana. We do add Arctic Armor. That's like our trifecta, which is really cool. It chills other enemies, and you are completely, if you would have, you don't have it at that point, to be fair, with Pyromaniac, it's like the combination of you cannot be frozen, ignited, or shocked is just wonderful, to be fair. So this set of auras is really nice on Sabo. Still your automation, and then you have your steel skin life tap set up again. This is not ticked because it increases your max hit so much. Bear Trap is kind of nice. You can probably add this a little bit earlier maybe, but yeah, Enduring Cry is nice. With Urgent Orders, you can just drop that. If you're not gonna press it anyway for endurance charges, then just drop it, to be fair. And there's probably an argument that you want to add bird trap already here somewhere. But yeah, you can do that or just not. Other than that, for items, still the same thing. Obviously, you're gonna get better items over time, better wand, better shield, better everything. Just keep your attributes in order, and keep in mind that I believe already here it's okay to cap the level of certain strength or dexterity gems. In this case, it's probably mostly strength that's gonna hold you back a little bit. If you look into the calculation, like the strength here and the strength required, oh, here it is. Like the biggest offenders are Enduring Cry, which you might not even have because you're not gonna press it, and Shield Charge. Right, we only limited shield charge. It's okay, right, to go a little bit slower basically and not have attribute issues. Like, don't be too crazy about needing every attribute and needing to level everything. The same here. We do have a little bit less damage, estimating this at like 16 gems, end of campaign-ish. You have a lower level sniper's mark, but you don't have attribute issues. Like, that's a great trade to make. But you need to have your attributes in order. And we are already taking this stuff for ease of use in this direction. Other than that, I don't think I missed anything between these two. No, you can always check back and forth to see what changes. That's a little bit easier to see. Unless actually a mastery changes and looks the same, then you're lost. Make sure to check them from time to time. Then we're gonna go crit. I'm gonna flick this a few times, or basically gonna move this a little bit so you can see it. Ignore this bottom part. This is just at the very end, because your next, you know, in case you're going above 85, there's more nodes you're gonna take. So this is the direction you want to travel, and this is actually helpful because it gives you dex, and you're really needing dex. So there's like this is why this goes down there. Just ignore this for the moment. It's not the first thing you're gonna do. But if you go back and forth, the most thing we are getting here for once is here your power charge stacking. So you probably want some power charges first. This gives you as a charge mastery. This mastery changes later. You get, depending on how many charges you have, you get some more damage, which is kind of cool. But this is somewhat a little bit useless if you don't have many power charges yet, right? You get one here and you get one here. So if you have these two nodes, this becomes rather attractive. Other than that, we take crit stuff here. This is a defensive one. You can skip that if you want to. There's a bunch of crit here. These are probably the weakest crit nodes. We have, that's pretty much it. Oh yeah, there's some crit here. There's some crit here already talked about. Spell suppression here. Probably take this. At some point you take the lucky node in here, right, which is really, really helpful. And other than that, oh yeah, the crit here, obviously. So you want to get rid of this and want to take the crit nodes here. These things should all be the same still, and this should also be the same, correct. So yeah, bunch of crit nodes and then power charge scaling in this area. So in terms of skills here, nothing changes so far. In this case, you might want to be already a 5-link. You can decide that. If you are, do this, right? And I don't know, fire penetration, probably as a 5-link. I'm just going to put fire penetration here for now. So you have it into the POB for later reference. This is probably the last link, something like this, but 4-link is fine. I put this to 6. I don't know, Garafa had it at 6, put it at 4 if you want it at 4. Do whatever you want. Same Arcanist brand setup, same shield charge stuff. This is the same. This is the same. And this should also be the same. Just everything a little bit higher level. Pretty straightforward. You don't really need to change anything. You just get better gear. If we look at the gear here, what are we actually looking at? So we're looking at a wand, right? This is essence crafted. Like this color, the color that it increased spell damage is in, that indicates that this is a essence craft. So you need to look up which essence it is. I forgot the name, but it's the spell damage one apparently. So you can just make this. You click a spell damage essence, the most expensive you can imagine, and then you craft increased mind throwing speed, and you hope you have, this is probably a suffix, I don't know. You have one of the two needed free, and then you have this wand. You can guarantee make this wand. You do find a imbued wand. It's about implicit. It's kind of important here. There's even a higher base, but maybe you cannot equip that one yet. But yeah, you can make this. If you get anything like +1 fire is also great. Maybe you pick something up. Spell crit is great. Crit multi is great. Stuff like that. You can find that. On a shield, this is just the idea is to have like some defenses here, like life, evasion ES stuff. Is kind of cool. Using one with a little bit of suppress spell damage, like an evasion energy one, is kind of a good idea. 5% with lucky is not that bad. And then you just craft chance to suppress spell damage. You have your mask here again, life, ES, evasion stuff. If you can, one spell suppression craft, and you can use an essence for that to have the increased mana reservation efficiency. That can be really, really helpful. Probably not really needed, but comfy, right? So you can do that, somewhat optional. On your chest, just have evasion, energy, shield stuff. Do not have life, so you can use the mastery. If you have life, fine, but just prioritize 5 or 6 links here. 5 links should be fine. Maybe use gold to gamble at the vendor dude, right? It just gives you items. I feel like at some point, whenever 6 links can drop, you need to check the item level on that. It's worth doing that, and it should give you a 5 link, and then you can just craft chance to suppress spell damage on it. Super easy. On your gloves, there's nothing on it, just life, evasion ES if you can get it, movement speed life, evasion ES if you can get it, obviously is nice. Jade amulet is kind of cool. If you can get one at all with like +1 fire, that's great, right? If it has extra dex, great. If not, you need to find the dex somewhere else. And you have Gloomfang is actually pretty nice here, but you need to find the dex somewhere else. But Gloomfang is kind of a nice unique for damage and mana and stuff. So that's kind of cool. If you don't have a +1 fire, that's also totally okay. And you have this allocates successive detonations, which is a bit weird because this is really close, but it's such a cheap anoint and it saves you 3 points. Like you need this basically, right? This is really important to have to go crit, but you can save 3 points by like a clear, and a crimson. So as an early anoint, this seems really nice just to save on some of the points. Maybe you can do something else as well, but yeah, I'm just gonna do this on a throwaway amulet. Just do that. Other than that, just having amethyst rings and going reforge chaos and harvest is really, really nice. Then just get something that has at least chaos resistance and life and equip it, I guess. Do this 2 times on random amethyst rings. You can do this really easily. You can see if you want the -7 node to non-channeling mana crafts. You can just do that if it helps. If you need it for mana, just fill it out. Do you need it? Then go for it. If you do not need it, then just don't, right? That's already just, why does this always go away? This should always be like active mines. That's like really important. I don't know how many you have active, if it's 5, if it's 10, I don't know. You decide. But yeah, you might need this craft. Also, like kind of a disclaimer in here, if these crafts are gone, I believe the entire build is dead, right? Like they reworked Betrayal, this craft might be really gone or really weird or rare. So we will see how that plays out. Heavy belt, again, the trap throwing speed is an essence, right? So basically put an essence on it, hope for life, and then craft some little bit more strength to have the stuff. This is just a fixed. If you have to attribute somewhere else, be fine. And again, we in the skills sections, we limit some of our strength gems to actually be able, to need less strength. Like that. Other than that, flasks, should have talked about it probably a bit earlier, but you have a diamond flask obviously for crit. These are already really good flasks, but crit flask is nice. You might need one of these enduring mana flasks, right? You might need that. It can help with mana. Other than that, Jade is great, Quicksilver is great. Something like a bleed flask with some instant component is nice. What I would really like here is a quartz flask. Like I really miss phasing here, and I don't have it in here. I kind of miss, but it's softcore anyway, so who cares? But the reduced effect of curses stuff. So not too happy with the flasks, but it is how it is. Other than that, we already talked about that. That's basically your basic crit version, and with that, I mean, you end up with like 43% crit. Let's see if the configuration also says detonated recently. I think that increases it, or maybe it doesn't. Is it this one? Yeah, detonated recently. So this also gives you crit. So this is like kind of ramped, I want to say. And you can, on top of that, technically turn on the flask. Like if you have like a really good flask, you get more like into the 50%, which is a little bit more useful. But yeah, this is roughly it. This is what you get. And then also, if you would compare, right, this is then already with your last ascendancy, right? So in this case, right, you have ignite and shock immunity. You have this recovery stuff, you regenerate stuff, and you have, on top of that, Arctic armor, flesh and stone, skitterbot action. I really like these defenses. But yeah, if you look at this, this gives you in this case like 22%, like ramped more damage. So yes, you can go for this, and you can just not have Pyromaniac, right? You just can cut this and take this instead. That's fine. Like take this first, 2 and 3, and then take this. And then at a later stage, respec it to if you have more crit or something like that, or if you want to stop dying. But yeah, I'm gonna do this. Feel free. It's a bunch of damage over here. That's basically your crit swap. So now there's a little bit of a choice. We're just gonna pretend this early swap doesn't exist, and we're gonna go for magma up to 95. There is not much of a difference anymore, really, like crit and between these. So you should solve your dexterity by just taking more of this. This should be fine by this point. You can maybe drop it a little bit earlier. You can take Ghost Dance, depending on how much ES you have, right? Depends on that. It only makes sense if you have a bunch of it. There's also always Eldritch Battery options in this case. You might want to do that if you have mana issues, yada yada. You can do things like that. And other than that, we go down here. We get significantly more spell suppression, and if you have the crafts on gear and everything more or less perfect, then you might already be close at capping. In this case, it's still with lucky, in giving you almost 100%. And then you take for unique enemies, just for map bosses mostly, you take Heartseeker, more crit stuff, another frenzy charge. That's like your way if you want to play, or you have to play Magma for quite longer on this somewhat weird tree here. Other than that, nothing should change in these. No, explicitly nothing changes between the skills here. And for the items, they're also the same I just showed you. And then you can just level with that, improve them gradually, and then you have this Magma character. Latest at that point, you want to be a cat build that has 2 different starting points. For your first swap, or the first possible time to swap, which I wouldn't really recommend, let's put it that way. I wouldn't necessarily recommend to swap here. This is probably roughly the damage you've seen in the initial video. The initial video probably even like at the beginning of the video, you know, this random gameplay there probably has even more. I posted that PUB as well, the scuffed one, so you can compare. So this is like really low damage. If you want to swap early, do that. If you do it with better gear, obviously, that's easier, but also keep in mind you have significantly less passive points. Can cut some defenses, do whatever you want. I probably wouldn't do this on this gear level. I would definitely get +3 levels of chaos skills. Like on a +3, you can kind of do that. You do what you do, right? But assuming you do that, then you're going to be playing the cats build. That's the whole point. That's the whole idea. I get how late this is, and how this is. That's why this is not really a league starter itself. It's kind of weak on this gear level. Anyway, this is a good time to talk about mana, I believe. This is a really good time for that. So every time you throw mines, you reserve mana with all the reservation and other stuff, you already don't even have that much mana. So we do a lot of stuff to get more reservation efficiency and to get our mana actually back. Typically in here, it's kind of hard to tell how many mines you actually have, like active. That depends all like on how many you explode, how many you actually throwing. It's not really feasible to test this by just standing still and throwing mines, which isn't really accurate, right? Because in actual boss fights and stuff, you're not doing that 100%. But you have to feel that out. Like, are you blocked by throwing more mines because of reservation? Or do you have mana regeneration issues? And if so, you need to solve for one of the two, right? You need to find solutions for that. I find it pretty hard to do that ideally in PoB. I'm just not good enough for that, honestly. This should be fine to have 10 mines out. You typically have like 10 to 13, 12 if you just actually stand still. And you can kind of try to estimate that with this, like putting active mines. Like this, after you have 12 mines active, you cannot cast this anymore. So you probably you throw like 5 per throw, right? Like per cast, and then you're already at 10, and the third throw maybe doesn't go through entirely. Like, for example, a 13 mine doesn't really work anymore. But yeah, you have to feel that out for yourself. You have to figure that out. Also, like an indicator here, you have like fully casting through, you have like almost 50 mana cost per second on the setup, but you only get like 26 back. So you need an additional source of some kind of mana regen, right? Mana flask, for example, like the enduring one is kind of a choice, but you have to press it and it eats up a valuable flask thing. You can find more reservation or reduce the cost in some sense, and run a higher clarity, for example, right? Typically in here, in the skills thing, there is clarity in here, but it's only set to level 1, so you have to try and balance that. See, okay, can you get more via clarity? Can you maybe have more mana on your gear somewhere? Stuff like that. Is there maybe an opportunity with the mercenaries? We're going to talk about them later because they're weird to give you some clarity, some mana regen by giving them an item, something like this. But this is going to be a struggle, and you have to figure out basically for yourself how this works. One a little bit early thing you can do is, we have this anointed, right, which is very, very cheap. You can also take these points and cut them somewhere else or get it somewhere, and you can anoint this one. This is 3 silver, so it's significantly more expensive than the cheap one, but this gives you some reservation efficiency. You can do implicit on helmets, you can do better essence craft on your helmet, you can technically do stuff like path to another mana mastery somewhere and take this 10% reduced mana cost of skills. You could anoint a Dreamer, for example, if you want to reduce the mana cost, which doesn't reduce the reservation because I believe it is base mana cost or something like that, like the mine reservation, things like that. That also gives you some mana regen in this case here. So there's options, and you have to solve for that. One other option I'm going to mention is there's a cluster jewel that does gives you 50 sublime something, I believe it's called, and it's sublime form. Yeah, maybe that. You find it on evasion or reservation efficiency clusters, which even the small nodes help out with this whole thing, and it gives you 50% increased reservation efficiency for grace, right? Also, maybe you find a merc that gives you a sufficient grace and stays alive, then you cut an entire aura, which is great and gives you way more mana back and reservation back. As said, going to be a struggle. You have to figure this out and need to be ready to figure this out on the fly on your actual character. So that about mana, basically. So let's look at the tree. If we go from the crit version, basically, what changes? Let me, just on the tree, I'm gonna do something weird here, which we probably shouldn't, but I can show you easier. Don't do this. Between these two here. That should be perfect. Just have to change it back in a second. So your magma crit on like an 85 and you swap to an 84. Like this is roughly your respec. In this case, this would be your respec of like 31 points, roughly. If you do it this early, then you're gonna be roughly from this tree to this tree. And most of the things that change is AoE nodes, elemental nodes, right? You want to go over here between these two. You want to cut this thing here. And yeah, you want to take a bunch of stuff here, which we take later anyway, more reservation efficiency, spell suppression stuff here, which really helps with getting rid of the lucky. Other than that, it's just some other pathing. This stuff is gone, obviously. So roughly, yeah. Oh yeah, that's up here and getting Heart of Darkness, that's just really nice. This is roughly it. This still stays the same. You still have typically lucky here, because you might not be spell suppressed yet. If you are actually capped with the gear, right, then that's kind of fine. But this is roughly your respec that you're gonna do between the two. Roughly 30 points. You get like, I don't know, 19 or something from the campaign anyway. That's why I want you to keep them, right? So you just need a little bit of gold extra. Should be no problem at this level. But keep in mind that this needs to happen. So if we put this now back down, so I do not forget, and we're gonna pick the actual loadout for the early swap. So in terms of skills, other than that, you have your wonderful Soulrend of Reaping. Yes, you can see most of these gems already leveled, right? Keep in mind, you probably want to level stuff in your offhand, right? So you can actually do the swap. Really, really cool. And then that we have Grace, we still have Flesh and Stone, we have Skitterbot still. Arctic Armor, you would need to drop Skitterbots and cast your curse yourself and everything like that. Or maybe if you can actually replace Grace, you can run Arctic Armor. But as it looks like, I didn't really find another way of running this nice trinity of like Grace, Flesh and Stone, Skitterbot, Arctic Armor on this character. It just doesn't really work. So yeah, but Arctic Armor is nice. Otherwise you need to freeze solve differently, and you just do not get the physical reduction while stationary. That's just how it goes. Clarity here, just to fiddle around with it, take whatever you need. You're gonna have a wither setup for your like wither totems, super important. Yes, the totems kind of die, that's just how it is, but you need wither on it. Without wither, the damage drops so much. So yeah, try to do that. Shield charge, right? Obviously, it's fine with just faster attacks, flame dash for movement. You have your detonate mines, automation things. A reminder here, this quality is really nice. You want this quality, you want to get this to 2020 so you can use it with the gem. Withering step for like this quick wither application to help your totems to just how's it called? Lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, right. To like help on bosses, but also like on rares or something. You can just tap it, get like 6 wither or something on the boss, which is really nice. Here for Bear Trap, really nice. There's also steel skin hidden again. Again, if you look at this, it just gives you so much more first max hit and stuff. So, but this is not active all the time. If you want to, you can automate that stuff, but I'm not going to. Bear Trap, really nice boost here to use if you want to. And the Despair is in one of the rings, which is a unique. So let's look at this in terms of gear. Let's say this is like the super early swap gear. It's like really bad gear. Any plus chaos, +1 chaos. So you at least have +1 on your thing. You can, by the way, roll this with Reforged Chaos, and I believe now it should be easier then because their resistance are gone. So maybe it gets easier to roll this, but right now it's like a 1 in 12 on a wand, I believe, to hit the +1 Chaos. If you Reforge Chaos in Harvest, craft Mind Throwing Speed, super important. Here, another +1 basically. Get some a chance to suppress spell damage on here, something like this. Reservation efficiency would be really nice. There are no implicit yet. There's also an implicit for this, which can help out, but early on it's kind of difficult to roll often, so I didn't want to include that. Some more crafting. Here, some more crafting. It's just a basic chest armor. No life intentionally. Here you have double pierce. Let's talk about that in a second. The global crit is also an essence, right? So you could roll this with like an essence for life and then craft this and get the implicit. This is like the most important implicit, I feel like, because it gives you pierce. Before we go further, let's talk about the pierce. Soulrend of Reaping does not have built-in pierce. The spiral one or the normal one has, this one does not. And if you want stuff to return and have clear in general, you want pierce. You actually want quite a bit of pierce. With this gear piece here, we get 2 of them. Right? You get 2 pierce, which might not be enough for all the content, and maybe you want more of that. So you have to feel that out. An alternative to, especially if you don't have to anoint and don't have to craft, maybe the craft is gone, whatever, or you don't have to implicit yet, there is a like +3 pierce here, like 2 here and 1 there. So you can also just take these 3 points, but we're so starved anyway. So ideally, I feel like it's better on the gloves, and maybe depending on content, you can have it on the gloves and also take it on the tree. You know, right? Combine and then have like, I don't know, +5 pierce, something like that. Just in case you're not aware, this craft is a betrayal one, right? So betrayal changes, who knows? And getting it, unveiling it is not really worth it because you get a +2 of projectile gems, which doesn't seem really worth it, right? But what are you going to put there to make the +2? It's still only 1 projectile, even if you naturally unveil it, basically. So you can just craft it, I guess. That's kind of the idea. Boots, I don't know, life movement speed, any evasion ES is great. Kind of an amulet that also has a +1, right? So we're in total +3, but with really bad gear, and it really shows in the DPS, I feel like. It's kind of a nightmare. Something like this. -7 on this one, crafted. I said, this is gone. We have troubles, big troubles. Profane Proxy. You're gonna put your despair in that, so you always have like despair, and it has +3, so really, really strong. Makes a lot of sense. We should definitely do that. The other one, Amethyst Ring, I guess, right? Reforge Chaos them until they're kind of good enough, and then craft a -7, so we have the -14 in total. We need it on the amulet because we lose 1 on the ring, because you cannot craft on this ring, I guess. Heavy build for strength, and again, the trap and mine throwing speed is an essence. The regenerate 150 ES, it kind of depends. I think it's kind of nice. It feels kind of nice. It feels good. It's probably not that mandatory, but also a betrayal one. So there's a lot of betrayal going on here. The jewel is still the same. Always like just a corrupted one, corrupted blood one. Get better ones if you can. You probably still need a mana flask, crit jade, stuff like that. So that's happening. This is roughly where you could swap, right? I find it too early. You do you. Where I rather would like you to swap, tree-wise and also gear-wise, is like more towards the 90, and it's a little bit less the tree that's the problem here, and it's more about the gear, which I'm going to show you. So in this case, what changes here, we no longer have the lucky thing, so we actually have enough spell suppression. We have this one, we already had that yet, but other than that, there's some Wind Dancer going on here. Some more ES stuff. I really like these notes here. Also, while you have energy shield conditional, I get it. Maybe you can also take the corruption stuff here to have more Wither effect, but again, it's only active if you actually have Wither, right? So to talk about the config here, it's also a good time, I guess. There's a bunch of stuff in here with configs, endurance charges I'm going to explain in a minute. Like this, for example, you have quite a bit less evasion rating if you lose your energy shield. That's conditional. This has 15 Wither stacks. Yeah. If you imagine, look at the damage. If you only have 6, it's quite a lot less damage, right? This would be Withering Step just. So keep in mind, Wither is really, really important, and your damage drops so much if you don't have it. Blinded is fine. Chilled and Shocked should be fine because of the Skitterbot stuff. And this one also is quite a bit of a difference if the enemy actually has energy shield, which for bosses should be the case, yeah, right? Because all your damage passes through them. So you do things like that. Also, maybe a good point to mention the config. Obviously, there's stuff in the config, right? So if you make this bigger, right, you need to find Chaos Rest somewhere, and you need to find your elemental resistance. This overcaps you nicely, and this Chaos stuff caps you exactly. So you can have a look here to have a grasp how much additional resistance you actually need on gear, right? Like that makes the entire gear, if you just look at the gear without the resistance on it, it looks rather doable, but keep in mind, you also need to solve resistance, right? You need to find 140 resistance, right? Or at least 115, I guess. But you really want to be overcapped against elemental stuff. So yeah, keep that in mind. And obviously this more damage is a return modifier for the returning projectiles from your ascendancy. But other than that, the config should be pretty fine. Also handstands, it always assumes, right, that this is actually active. Other than that, it should be pretty okay config-wise. Just keep the bidder in mind. Really, really important. So much about that. For gear here, or maybe for skills first, this shouldn't have changed too much. We do have a 6-link in this case with trap and mind damage. Void manipulation is also okay, but this feels better. This is like the normal thing. Nothing changed here, I believe. Nothing here or there, should all be the same. And also again, right, if you look at the steel skin, if I just activate this is quite a bit more, but this is not active all the time, not even close. So yeah, just don't get fooled by this. Mana, also with the +3 stuff, should be equally problematic, right? In this case, and yeah, let's look at the items in this case. So we have a better wand here. And it doesn't look that much better, but getting one with spell damage and +1 chaos is a significant difference in terms of rolling it, right? But significantly better. We do have +1 here as well, so pretty basic shield still. This thing as well. You don't need all the implicits. Keep that in mind. They're more like an idea. You definitely need the one on your boots, on your gloves. Like you still need to solve pierce somehow. Everything else can come a little bit later, but they are the ones you would be looking for. Physical taking as huge. Damage per power charge is kind of cool. You have your chest here. There is the endurance charge technology. It's called a technology on it, and the physical damage taken as hits. Other than that, it's just a spell suppression craft and your basically non-life chest. Get as much evasion rating and energy shield here as you can. And yeah, the endurance charge one. Why is that there? So this basically says, hey, you're gonna get a single endurance charge every 15 seconds. You can have in your weapon swap a enduring cry to like get free charges, and then you have them, right? And maybe even for red blade banners, you don't need enemies for that, or you just wait 45 seconds basically to get free charges. But then you might say, hey, wait, the charges fall off before the 15 seconds are over. This is correct, but we are changing this mastery. This goes to 100% increased charge duration. That means you get endurance charges faster than they fall off, and they all refresh at the same time. So you have 3 charges, you get another one from the chest, you still have 3, but full duration. They're not falling off one by one. It's always the entire stack. So that's how you get infinite charges. Is this worth it, right? We are at the mastery anyway. We give up the damage mastery, and we need this actual implicit here. The should be the exact one then, I guess. I don't know. You can figure this out. Yeah, but it just gives you 3 permanent charges, basically. I really like this technology. If you get some more somewhere else, right, plus max, that would be cool. But yeah, I don't know. You can do this. You can also just not do this. Your wonderful gloves. Again, life, ES stuff, and then your craft and the essence. Same thing with your implicits again. You need the projectile stuff, you need a projectile craft. Mind throwing speed is nice, very, very comfy. On your boots, same pretty much basic boots, right? Movement speed, defenses and stuff. Yeah, you can take some implicits if you want to. On your amulet, pretty much the same still. Nothing too crazy. Still allocates in this case the successive detonations. Unique the same, amethyst ring, pretty basic one. And your Stygian Vice, same thing, you know, essence. Ideally, you have some strength here. If you don't have it here, then you need it somewhere else. This is the first Stygian Vice, I believe, actually. So that's pretty good. That also brings us to the point with the cooldown reduction. You want a Abyss Jewel that has 2% increased cooldown recovery rate. Doesn't need to be 3, only 2. And if you combine that, or if you would combine that with a 20/20 automation, then your determinate mind thing for some reason is like better, and then you hit a breakpoint. I'm not entirely sure. No, you don't need this quality. That's just destination speed. But yeah, automation 20/20 plus this one here, I've been told, hits a breakpoint with instantly exploding mines. I don't know. You can trust it. You cannot. You can correct me in the comments. I have no idea if this is true or not. I'm just going to do it. How about that? Jewel, still same basic one in, get like corrupted blood immunity because nobody has time to deal with that. It's, I don't know, just get rid of it. Flasks, pretty much the same as before. This is roughly the point I'm aiming for, to say, okay, I can roughly play this build. Let's put it that way. Like kind of, I feel okay playing this. This is not huge damage or anything, but I feel like this is okay and I can farm red maps comfortably, right? I'm not gonna do big bossing or anything, like, you know, farming. You can, I mean, you can get 4 stones on the Magma Miner if you really wanted to, but this should be okay. It should live decently. I'm not entirely happy with the invasion rating and some of the recovery, and I'm not too happy with the curse effect and some other stuff, but this should be kind of okay, and I feel like the damage is good enough for a meme build. Again, you're gonna struggle with your mana stuff. You need to balance that somehow. Again, maybe you can drop this anoint, take these nodes, right, and then drop something else. Maybe this here, then you have less evasion rating. Also, it's not too terrible early on to drop this, right? This is like 10%, but only on 15 wither stacks. So it might very well be worth it. Okay, let's drop this, get these free, and anoint something else, right? Dreamer, or more likely this one. If you swap this late, you can probably afford this one as well. This makes your life probably a little bit easier to do. Also, a general anoint, melding seems pretty sexy in general for this build as well. I kind of like that, but yeah, we kind of have other targets for anointing. Other than that, there's a bunch of jewel sockets. If you want to drop something, you have a really good jewel, you can possibly drop some damage. These nodes here, these are 1.4, 1.8 in this case, and 7.3, so you have an average of 3.5, which is not too huge. So this is a pretty good target to cut. This is a possible target if you don't care about defense and you feel fine. This one I probably wouldn't because of the reservation efficiency, but the suppress stuff. You can drop some stuff, get more sockets. These charges I probably wouldn't. Really, they're pretty good usually, but yeah. These are your rough options. Again, quick reminder, this makes a huge difference. Okay, so this is the Cats build, basically, the very starting one. We're gonna have a look next on aspirational stuff. So if you look at this, there isn't really anything changing, right, in between these two different things. We do take successive detonations, so we can anoint something else, and we do get a little bit of +3 to suppress spell damage. This is already like a 97 in here. Maybe there's time to swap off a Lyra to get a point, but roughly the tree pretty high. You just have to cut something else if you want something more, and this in this case would allocate our reservation efficiency here, and has obviously quite a bit different gear. Also, what changes here, I put everything, like this is a 21, I put quality pretty much everywhere where you need it. Other than that, it's pretty much still the same build. Still some restrictions on your strength. If you can get more, you can level the gems higher. Despair still in your ring. 4 items. Now it gets quite a bit different, right? This one, for example, is like spell damage. You have some crit on top of that, but that's like 3 prefixes already on pretty high. All of this is not max, but like 75% the way. So these are, I don't know, tier 2, tier 3 stuff. It's not that easy to get a wand like this for most people. Same for shield, right? You have a bunch more stuff on it, but still kind of the same. You have your helmet, right, with the reservation efficiency and a bunch of like really good prefixes, right? Like triple prefix plus this thing here. And keep in mind, you still need resistance on all of these. Very, very important. On your chest plate, this is just the same one, just better, right? Better tiers. You have your gloves, right, with a little bit of spell suppression. You need a little bit somewhere for it to be capped, so you don't need to craft as much. But that's like a possibility. A bit better. You have a little bit better boots in this case. Like everything is a little bit better. In this case, there is a replica dragon's fang. This thing is really good and also really bad, right? The bad thing is you lose. If you also have the ring, you only have space for 1 -7 mana cost thing. So you lose one, but you do gain 10%, up to 10% increased reservation efficiency. And you get +3 levels of Soulrend, which is really nice, right? I would really, really like this. But yeah, I don't know how the price is going to be, how difficult it is. Keep in mind, if you're trying to divine the increased reservation efficiency, be careful, the gems changes as well. So if you have a Soulrend one, you want to go from 8 reservation to 10, for example, you put a divine up on it, it's not going to be Soulrend anymore. So it's not how this works. You get what you're buying, basically. Has a little bit of resistance stuff as well. But in general, really, really good. Also in general, a +2 amulet with other stats is likely to be better in general. Like rares have the potential to be significantly better, but they are most likely way more expensive to make or buy than a replica Dragon's Fang, depending on how available they actually are. I don't know. But yeah, that's definitely would be a really nice buy. +3 levels is huge for the build. But you have downsides with it as well, and you might run into more mana-related issues and complications here. Other than that, Profane Proxy still exists. Still a chaos resistance ring. You need some chaos resistance somewhere, right? So yeah, it's always a really good target for that. For your belt, still pretty much the same. Nothing too crazy here. Can be better, sure. And your jewel situation, the 2% is the interesting one, and still get whatever jewel you can, but please make a corrupted blood one. So this is basically what changes. Again, this is not impossible, I feel like. I feel like this can be played. DPS looks quite a bit nicer, but the big part of it is obviously the gem levels to get. Again, you need a bunch of resistance, including chaos on your build to actually make this work. This is still the 50% more for the returning thing, which might be slightly incorrect. And again, the reminder, without wither stacks, the difference is actually quite big. So make sure you actually get the wither. Stuff like this, you still have your endurance charges. That's why they can be ticked. Yeah, your evasion drops quite a bit in this case. I don't know if I talked about it earlier, but in general, Wind Dancer is also kind of a question, right? This is not always great, depending on your evasion. I'm pretty unsure if the entire until like really late game, or if you focus more on evasion, if this is actually worth it. You have to figure out for yourself, do you get hit all the time or like too often and you're constantly taking the 10% more damage? Then this is not worth it, right? So you have to figure out if this is actually worth it or not. You have to feel it out, basically. Maybe there's some breakpoint in PoB. People say, okay, starting with this evasion, it's fine, and that is not. Probably somebody figured this out. But if it's not worth it, you always have two more points, right? You can also see if we say, hey, we have been hit by an attack recently, see what happens to our max hit stuff. In this case, we take 10% increased damage, or more damage even. I think it's increased, something like that. So if you're constantly getting hit and you're in this state here, then it's really not worth it, right? So yeah, you might as well not have that. That would be the idea. So yeah, this is kind of a weird one. You have to figure out to some extent, but other than that, the config should be kind of okay. Also, no energy shield, no boss situation is obviously kind of a little bit lower. This in general should already tank a Shaper Slam in theory, I believe. We can try here. I don't know how super reliable this is. You just barely with this gear die to a Shaper Slam apparently, so that's kind of unfortunate. But we can anticipate the Shaper Slam, and where is it? I lost it. Oh, here. And activate Steel Skin, and then we live to say Shaper Slam. Yeah, so that's kind of the idea. Yeah, just kidding. But yeah, you're getting close to that. It's obviously not a Uber Shaper Slam, but it's also not terrible anymore. You should be overall kind of okay on this like gear level. This is not super starter level, obviously, and the overall performance for that gear is questionable, I would say. I hope I covered pretty much everything here, and we can have a quick look at the unrealistic gear here. So basically here not too much changes here. We do get some more levels. We can consider Leafy Shade. You can also consider this before at some point. Some stuff shuffles a little bit here, but tree is pretty much the same. We're just making sure to get jewels, right? Because we need them. And also, yeah, jewels get really, really powerful. So yeah, some stuff shuffles, and we have pretty much. Better gems, right? Some vacant stuff that might be useful. A vacant void should be better than trap and mine, but only if it's vacant. Yeah, you can get them with level 6 and everything is better, or you just don't. Stuff like that. Other than that, not too much changes here. What's interesting is this Ultimate Guardian setup, which I don't really know enough about, but the idea would be to run Zealotry using Guardian's Blessing with this guy and maybe give him some more items. Very experimental. I don't know. You can figure this out. In case mercs are weird, take the Guardian or maybe take both. I don't know how that's gonna work. There's a possibility. Everything else is kind of fine. There's a random enfeeble here, which you might want to put in somewhere at some point to get the second line. If you have a double Balance of Terror, which you probably don't. You can have Vaal Righteous Fire, right, to enable this Vaal thing and get a quick boost, right? Like this is pretty big in spell damage. I don't know, it's so very experimental. You have a Despair, which you need to auto cast in this because the ring is gone, right? So you're gonna do that. With some level, you could also put it into an unset ring, I guess, to get like plus levels. But yeah, I didn't in this case. That's also a possibility. If we look at the gear, this is insane stuff. It still doesn't have a resist or anything on it, right? Like everything you see still needs resistance on top of it. Kind of thing, like an insane kind of like whatever Vaunt here, for example, to give you some ideas. A really good shield, I think, like very defensive, but still, you probably don't want the craft. You want to get probably more gear with actual suppression on it, but yeah, I don't know. But on Helmet, same thing, just everything like tier 1 super stuff, also really important. +2 corruption on a chest piece, Restless Ward seems like a good target. Yeah, I believe you cannot really have a +4, like +2 and other +2 because the tags on the gem. That is different with the Spiral one, because the Spiral one should have a duration tag, like the Spiral gem, but has other issues. So there's a possibility. But like +4 corruptions that fit is super expensive anyway. The interesting part is you don't need to have specifically a Restless Ward. If you have any chest that has like a bunch of evasion and maybe evasion energy shield is unique and or in general and has a +2 level of socketed projectile gems kind of thing as a 6 link might be useful. Like you need gem levels, so you don't need the specific chest. Like pretty much any chest that has in general doesn't hurt you and has decent base stats could be a target for getting +2. So you're kind of free in choosing that. Gloves, same thing, just way more tiers on the affixes, same fear, some spell suppression here, for example. So we need less on the tree. If you find more spell suppression gear, you can drop more and more on tree, which helps. Some kind of replica Dragon's Fang situation, better rings. As an example, I chose the Vermilion ones. You can do other stuff, doesn't really matter. With the crafts, so the Profane Proxy is actually gone, a better belt, basically, kind of a, I don't know, crazy jewel. Progenesis, if you wanted to, I don't know, you can do that. Obviously, you definitely need to solve mana before that, right? Because that would replace your mana flask, I guess, so you cannot have this situation, right, with going low on mana. You need to find some way with a merc or whatever to solve your mana regeneration. Other than that, Balance of Terror, the really big one, right? You need to manually cast Despair, so your stuff inflicts Wither. So you have like full Wither stacks, huge upgrade, really, really great. You can put this in any other previous version. You just need to manually cast Despair in any way. So the Scatterbot situation is gone. Like the Profane Proxy situation is gone. If you somehow get a double line, you could obviously go ahead, like cast Despair and then every 10 seconds randomly somewhere cast a level 1 Enfeeble, right? You don't have 2 curses anyway, but yeah, just do that, or maybe get a second curse and also get the crit multi. That's kind of neat, but yeah, in general, Balance of Terror, pretty big. Yeah. I don't know about the availability this league. Here's like an example jewel that's has like useful stuff, format jewel craziness, I don't know. And yeah, I don't know. Get one of those with corrupted blood, or get your Balance of Terror with corrupted blood. So yeah, no, it's not gonna happen. But yeah, this is more for ideas, and then the damage can actually get quite nutty, quite interesting. If the damage is even real, you still have mana issues. You still need to solve for all of that, and this is already a level 100 anyway. So this is all kind of slightly and a little bit crazy. Let me talk a bit about the skill itself and its mechanics. So there's Reaping, like Soulrend of Reaping, and there's Soulrend of the Spiral. There's 3 main differences, I would say. So the Reaping one, or maybe some more, the Reaping one deals significantly more base damage on hit. It doesn't have the dot part, but we don't really care about the dot part too much. But also means it doesn't have a dot part, and you have no other damage over time, so you cannot benefit from on-kill effects. You could do that if your skill actually has a dot. I think that would work, or maybe with some poison, but it would be randomly that one actually getting the kill, because then it gets back assigned to you because of reasons. Things like that. This one has built in only 1 projectile, so you definitely need more projectiles with like a GMP or something like that. That's a difference. This one has, and that's the main part I really overlooked early on, has effectiveness of added damage of 400%, and the other one has like, I don't know, 160 or whatever, something like that. So this one deals significantly more hit damage baseline. So another really big difference is this skill here does not shotgun, but the spiral one does shotgun. So what does shotgunning mean? It means if you put us like a single spell cast of this thing here, so like a single mine, shoots out more than 1 projectile, right? Like in this case, 5 additional ones. So it's 6 projectiles, basically. But only one of these projectiles can hit a given enemy once, right? Even if the enemy somehow walks into all 6 projectiles, it's just a single hit. This single cast of the spell will hit once. So then returning comes into it, and it can hit again. And I believe the backwards, like the returning one, can also hit with a different projectile than the first one. I think that should work. I'm not entirely sure. But overall, 1 hit per Soulrend of Reaping cast, or per Soulrend of Reaping mine, plus 1 of the returning, but only half of them return. So you have like 1.5 hits. Yes, roughly, per cast, per mine. It does not shotgun. The other one, the spiral one, does shotgun. That means every single projectile from 1 Soulrend of Spiral cast can hit once, and also once again while returning. So I don't know, let's assume, right, you have 6 projectiles there, or you have like 4 baseline plus 6, you have 10 projectiles going out. You can have 10 hits, and then half of them return, which would be 5, and you'll hit 5 times again, so you have like 15 hits. Super hypothetical, it goes into different directions. Obviously no monster will walk this perfectly, but you have a multiplier per mine. A mine can hit multiple times plus the returning ones. Even though it has significantly less effectiveness and significantly less base damage, this can in certain scenarios, I'm pretty sure, be better than this one. Depends probably on content, on the arena, on how much the boss moves, and also depends a lot on, for clear, for example, it might depend a lot on just having these more projectiles also, by the way. Depends a lot on what content you're doing and how much damage you have. So if you, for some reason, do more of a mapping thing and you pretty much kill everything super quickly with Reaping, and then taking Spiral instead might be beneficial for better clear, and you might still, because your damage is so high, you might still one-shot everything, right? So there might be places and arenas and content and specifics and how much damage you have where Spiral is actually factually better because you get more hits and all that stuff gets multiplied, basically. You have to fill that out. Just wanted to mention, it's not a black and white situation, in my opinion, in this case. One other note about the Spiral one and its shotgunning abilities. For some reason, you can test this with like self-poison, right? It is really odd and very dependent on how your positioning, or then I guess your mind's positioning to the monster is. And for it to initially, like with stuff going into all directions, like on a rather small boss, like in the center, you need to be positioned super specifically in the boss. Like if you just stand next to it, it doesn't really work. And for some reason it doesn't double hit initially, then just with the return, it's like some of the stuff just goes through the boss. It's like really odd. And the issue with that is with mines, you are not throwing the mines on a very specific, precise position, even if the boss is like really doesn't move. Just because of the minefield and everything, it's kind of a spread. So there's some mechanical weirdness with this entire thing. So it might look like you're hitting more than you actually do and apply, and you have to try this with self-poison to see it yourself. It's kind of odd. But anyway, that's like the take on the different Soulrends. In that case, let's talk quickly about mercenaries. There's also some stuff in the configuration, or actually not in this one, it's in a different one, but it doesn't really matter. There isn't much merc stuff in here. It's these mercenaries, we don't know enough about it. I do not know enough about it. Let's put it that way. But we will see what they will actually do. Points are, do they actually live enough, like easily? And I know, oh, you can give them all the gear and yada yada, but let's see how that actually works. But do they live enough in all scenarios that I can give them my grace? Or do I brick boss fights and stuff all the time because my merc dies, right? Is that actually reliable? Do they actually deal enough damage themselves, or do they buff me enough? Do I manage to give them enough stuff that it's worth bringing them? Yes, they should increase the stuff I find on the ground, right? Like quant, I guess, or more currency or whatever, something like that. But also, if I understand this correctly, then they count as half of a player. If you have another player in your party, stuff has double life. It has like 100% more life or something like that. So let's assume you find a boss with like 100 life. Let's put it like that, or 100 million life. Both are nonsense, but let's take 100 million life. And you bring another player, all of a sudden the thing has 200 million life. So you would need to deal double damage. And if I understand that correctly, then a merc counts as half a player. So they get 50% more life. So if you bring a merc, let's assume he doesn't do anything, just gives you a grace aura, then yes, I have grace, but by replacing grace with something else, do I deal like 50% more damage? Is that what's happening, or do I not? Because then it might not be worth it doing it at all. Or something like, oh yeah, this gives you like 10% increased damage. That's nice, but the stuff has less 50% more life. Not sure if it only applies to bosses. But yeah, it's something to consider, right? There's really opportunity cost in bringing the guy. So you have to really keep that in mind. Also, not entirely sure how easy it is to get them. Maybe you can get one with that gives you wither stacks, right? That might be really worth it early on, right? That's easily 50% more damage if you have nice wither application, and maybe he also deals some damage. It can be really worth it. Can be really nice, for especially wither and grace and clarity. Like these are the main targets I feel like are really nice. Maybe you can get some armor stuff as well. That would be nice. Some more ES. Zero Lottery, for example, would be cool. That can be really, really big. Something like that. So there's some opportunity to get stuff here. But so far, I'm planning completely without the mercs. We will see if they're useful or not. There is some kind of a note section here. You can scroll through this. It's significantly less than I usually have in my backup guides, but at the same time, right, yeah, I don't know. There's, yeah, it's not really a Leaguestart guide, and I don't expect anybody to actually do this. If you do, let me know how it's going for you. This is what I'm gonna go for. This is what I'm roughly gonna aim for, just because it's a meme build, and I think it's gonna be funny. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed. That was really long. I don't know how long so far, but that's going to be my League starter. And I hope you enjoy this new League launch after such a long time. I didn't expect to actually return to PoE 1 that quickly. I also didn't expect to return to softcore that quickly. I almost exclusively played hardcore SSF, but I really want to try that the cat thing, and that's not really a SSF thing. Like that's gonna be a nightmare, and playing a hardcore trade is just weird to me so far. So either hardcore SSF or this, and it's gonna be this, and then maybe I don't know, after a week or so, I'm gonna do something else, go back to hardcore SSF. Maybe I do this time a little bit of content around that. Just a little bit more difficult in SSF, I find, in hardcore SSF as well, because your character dies, and I don't know, we will see. Anyway, I hope you have a really, really good league start. I sincerely hope it works out for you, especially if you've played this. Let me know. Anyway, bye.